TBA. Together again.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today for our presentation for the 2021 Texas Bandmasters Convention. I am so excited to be with you today along with Kim Rosenberg and Bernard Rosenberg. We're going to be sharing with you a clinic entitled A View from Both Sides of the Fence, High School and Middle School Directors Working to Get Kids to the Next Step, High School Band. We're excited to have our team together and hope that we'll be able to share this presentation with you live at TBA. But as we go through today, we're going to share the slides and discuss in the order of the points that we would be doing at the clinic. And our bigger picture is that you leave today with an understanding of what our relationship looks like. We know that what we do doesn't work for everyone and it is unique to our situation. But for the last 13 years, we've built a great relationship and friendship together. And we feel like our students are a great reflection of that. And so the bigger picture of our message for today is that you see your middle school students as the future of the high school program. And as you can see in these two pictures of Mr. Rosenberg's band and Mrs. Rosenberg's band from a couple of years ago, those students are now all at Johnson and they make up our ensembles. And it is a pretty magical journey to see the kids begin as sixth graders and then evolve into a point of where they're just fearless warriors, both on the marching field and fabulous musicians on the concert stage. We talk a lot about what vertical alignment looks like and this idea of a horizontal progression. And for us, vertical alignment has been more about the relationships and connecting with our students than it necessarily has been about the way that we teach things. And so our goal with our vertical alignment is that we are creating that continuity for our band members from their beginner class until they graduate from high school. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Rosenberg to talk a little bit about what our cluster looks like.
Well, the cluster started, Tejeda opened up in 2001 as a feeder to Ronald Reagan. And then in 2008, Johnson opened up. So we switched to the other side of 281. And we grew into a program of almost 400 students in the band program. And thank goodness, Tex Hill opened up and relieved us of some of those students. And we were very fortunate that my wife got the head job at Tex Hill. And from 2008 to 14, both Tejeda and Barbara Bush were feeders into Johnson. And then 2014 to present, Tejeda and Tex Hill are both 100% feeders.
And so you can see there's been an evolution that's happened, but from day one, Mr. Rosenberg has been at the ground floor of the cluster, and then I joined the family, and then Mrs. Rosenberg joined our team. And so we've grown together over the last 13 years, and I think it's pretty magical to see the evolution that's happened with that. So Mrs. Rosenberg will talk a little bit about how we approach band as a 7-year journey for our students and look at what that's like.
So from the first moment that our kids come into our band hall to select an instrument as fifth graders, we want to establish with all of our kids that band is fun and it's their home away from home. And we want it to be their place where they can feel like they belong, hang out together, become a family, and also take ownership in our program. And so we develop relationships with our older students, with our younger students, with the high school and middle school, and also within our middle schools, like with our 8th graders and our 6th graders. And they mentor each other, they meet together, not just for band, but to help with anything that they need help with. Our high school kids come back, they play with us. They come and do master classes, they perform at concerts. So it's really cool to see that evolution of the kids and how they grow and come back and then give back to the middle school programs. We also try to start things that they're going to do in high school as a part of the middle school, like smart music, going down the line to play their part. because that helps them to feel more comfortable when they get to Johnson, and they already know what to expect. I think it's real important that we think about these kids as our kids. It's not just Tex Hill kids, Tejada kids, Johnson kids. They're all our kids. They're all going to end up together, and we're a big family. And so that's really how we approach it. We team teach at all three schools, developing that tradition, expectations, and culture. So I'm going to hand this back over to Bernard.
Our values, what we really believe in is a love for music. The kids have to love music. That's what our goal is. Bottom line, when they leave our whole cluster, we hope the children have a love of music throughout their lives. We have a strong belief of excellence in everything that we do. We strive for that. We want the kids to build relationships, both with each other, with us, and continuing on through their lives. We also want to be able to resolve conflicts. Like Kim said, we're a family, and families fight, and that's just the way it is. But we really want to encourage, the conflict resolutions. We're all very strong about setting goals and being able to attain those goals. Camaraderie and family. We do a lot of things together, both in clusters and within ourselves, outside of the school day, to get our kids to really feel that family. We want every kid to be confident in what they're doing, and we strive to build that confidence in our programs. And the most important thing is life lessons. Like we tell them from day one, you're a part of our family, and we're going to treat you like that. So we're really interested in them as a person, not just as a musician. As you can see, relationships becoming friends. We don't always agree with each other, but we're family. And I think the best part of our relationship between the three of us is that we all go about it a different way, but we end up at the same spot. The way I do band is different than the way Kim does band, and the way Kim does band is different than the way Jarrett does band. But we all work as a team for that one goal.
And you can see we lift each other up. Sometimes when one of us is having a bad day, the other person is there to be able to help them with that. And that's what makes it so beautiful. So as we talk about those bonds and those relationships, the kids are going to mirror what we do. So if you see family bonds with the directors, and you can see that we spend time together both at work and also outside of work, and we know there needs to be that balance between work and play, but that's what we want our students to be. And so it's, as Mrs. Rosenberg said, there's not Tex Hill kids, there's not Tejada kids, there's not Bradley kids or Lopez kids or Bush kids, they're Johnson kids, and that culture comes from you. And I think that that's something that the directors, it's not easy to build, but I've always said for a long time that when we started to spend time outside of school together and focusing on each other as people, I noticed that everything that we did got better. And so talking a little bit about cluster alignment and the nuts and bolts of that, the visibility at the feeder program is going to be paramount for the head director to be there. It's so important to treat band as a complete 6 to 12 experience in your cluster. We talked about that grade 6 to grade 12. And that's difficult to do. It doesn't always mean that we have to have the same end goal. If your program is interested in being competitive, they're interested in the love of music, I think it's going to be up to each of the head directors at the campuses to meet in the middle a little bit about that and be willing to give some. I think at the end of the day, when we all are on the same page, at least about the end goal, how we get there becomes the piece of the puzzle that you have to solve together. And so visiting the middle schools 2 to 3 times per week, at least for the head director. If it's a big time of year, I'll be down at Tex Hill and Tejada every day if that's what we're going to need. And sometimes as a head director, that means pulling out the second and third trumpet or clarinets. It means taking the 2 tuba players that aren't comfortable with their music, or maybe you're pulling the bottom of the French horn or the percussion section. And it's sometimes for the head director at the high school, it's not about going and being the person on the podium to provide feedback. It's about getting into the trenches and helping those ensembles achieve their goals. Some of my favorite days are when I'm pulling out students that are really struggling and not pontificating in front of the band. And you as a head director will build those relationships. Likewise, Mr. and Mrs. Rosenberg have come to Johnson every year during our UIL time, and they pull sections and they help us with things. Mr. Agueros, who is the assistant at Tex Hill, he teaches the marching band all fall. Mrs. Lean, the assistant at Tejeda, she works with our double reeds and our flute players, and has continued to be at every one of our major performances. So, I just think it's a relationship that works both ways. And it means that everybody has to give above and beyond. So a lot of times the job descriptions don't cover the middle school director going to the high school, or they don't require the high school director goes to the middle school. But we're sharing that we've made the choice to commit to doing that because it's what's good for kids and it's what's good for each other. So I talk about what does it look like, and in our actual clinic, we'll talk more about specifically what we do together. Finding strengths of directors, not a top-down model. I don't run our cluster. I articulate a vision for the high school. Mr. Rosenberg articulates a vision for Tejeda. Mrs. Rosenberg does for Tex Hill. And then the three of us figure out how we can support each other in achieving our visions together. So compromise is big. In terms of what we want our students to experience, I'm going to turn over to Mrs. Rosenberg to talk about how we get to each kid every day.
So I think it's really important that you get to know each individual student, because two students are going to be exactly alike. And our goal is, like Mr. Lipman said, what's best for kids. And, we have a place for every student in all three of our programs, whether they're your most dedicated student or your last chair player or someone that's really involved with 3 or 4 other activities. So there's a band for them, there's a place for them. And so it's really important to figure out and get to know the kids and the families. How are their grades? What do they struggle with? We set up tutoring for our kids that need it, and help the kids learn how to balance. I think that's a big thing in middle school and high school. So we work with the parents, we work with the kids, we work with the coaches, other teachers, whatever they're involved in, to help the kids feel more comfortable and have the best band experience that they can. So this is a quote from Mr. Rosenberg: "Love the kids like they are your own. Don't only care about what they do in band, get to know what else they are into." And that plays a big part into how we do what we do. He's always going to their football games, volleyball games, whatever else interests them. It's really important that they know it's not just about band, because we want it to be about developing good humans. And that's what we really try to do. And I think that we started this family atmosphere at Jackson. And it was a long time ago. So when Bernard, Andy, and I were there, that's how we did our program. And, when Bernard left to open Tejeda, he continued that. When Andy left to open Lopez, he continued that. And when I left to open Tex Hill, I really wanted to continue that culture about, what's best for kids, the family atmosphere, and all of that. It's really cool that we get to watch the kids grow up. We're the only teachers that they have for 7 years. And so that's really what we do, why we do what we do, is to see them develop into these amazing people and musicians. So that's kind of how we invest in the different kids. So Mr. Rosenberg's going to talk about petting zoos.
All right. The way we get the kids hooked in elementary school is we do instrument petting zoos. So we're allowed to go down to the elementary schools, and, a lot of kids think band is hard, because they haven't really experienced playing an instrument. So what we do is we get help from the high school kids, and they come down and we actually let kids blow on the instruments so they can realize, hey, it's not that hard. And we make a huge deal about them just making any kind of sound at all. And it gets them really, really, really excited and pumped up about band. By the time we leave there, they're all going, yes, we're going to do band, blah, 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 blah. So that's how we get them hooked right at the beginning. Kim does some great things with her stuff. She gives them little wristbands, or she'll give them future Tex Hill band kids shirts and stuff like that. Whatever you can do to get your excuse, this sounds awful, but get your hooks into them early. That's what you need to do. We do experience nights. We once we get the kids excited, we have to get the parents excited too. So what we've started was we had another petting zoo night at Johnson High School that Johnson hosted, and we had food truck there. We had laser tag, but before they can do the laser tag and stuff, they had to do the petting zoo. And for them to get there, they have to bring their parents with them. So that's how we get the parents hooked into the idea, because they see their kid making a sound on an instrument and being excited about making a sound on that instrument. And that's how we get them hooked into our band programs.
So once we get them hooked, it's the concept of what you do with them once you get there. And so the last piece of what we talk about is the actual pedagogy of band. And it's not that it's the least important, but it's the part that I think becomes most effective after these other pieces are in place. So you build the relationship with your teachers, you build the culture of loving band, and that's putting the emphasis on the love of music and family. And so some of the things that we'll talk about at our live clinic are all based on creating an environment where the kids want to be. We want our band halls to be family. We want them to feel safe. I think a lot of us do this, and that's something that's important to us. And so it's not revolutionary, but you will see at Tex Hill and Tejeda and at Bush and Bradley and our feeders in our district that those are familial environments where kids love being in the band hall. We know that they can eat in there sometimes if they take care of the space. Sometimes we have to, go through Rosenberg's rules of orders and remind the kids what the deal is with that. But for the most time, they're really good with it. Wider goals for the program. Fun doesn't mean anarchy. Focus doesn't mean militance. So our rehearsals are sometimes a little bit rowdier than maybe the model rehearsal would be, but we want our kids to be humans, and they get it. They know how to be disciplined. We want them to be, great posture and really engaged with eye contact, but we want them interactive. It's hard for us if they sit there and they have that toast face and they're not engaged. It's difficult to build those relationships. And so, keeping the kids excited about playing in band beyond high school, we're trying to get kids to keep playing whether they're going to major or not. And so those are our big goals. We align similar concepts and terminology, but I'm going to go to Mrs. Rosenberg. Just a few of the things that as teachers we approach differently, but we all agree we want our kids to do these things during band.
Yes. So I think, the big ones is number one, tone. And that starts as beginners, and we continue that all the way through high school. That's a major focus for all of us, tuning, playing together. And I think also accountability. We're going to hold them accountable for their music, for whatever their job is in the ensemble. And we do teach them a lot of ensemble skills, even starting in 6th grade, even in their beginner classes. So we teach them how to match. We teach them not just pitch, but with each other and balance. And, like we've said all along, we want them to love music forever. And that's a big part of it. And just like I said, the high standard of musicianship, they know that we're going to hold them accountable for their part. And it's not in a mean way, but we're part of a team. Everybody needs to be, accountable for their part. And we teach them how to practice. And I think just the whole family atmosphere plays into all of these things. And we tell the kids, it's tough love. So that's kind of how we all do it.
And our high school directors are willing to be a part of that puzzle, whatever that looks like at the middle schools. Again, if it's doing pass-offs with middle school students, I help out with that. Mr. Lozano, our percussion director at the high school, pulls the percussionists. teaches them 6 through 12. And Miss Donnell, one of our assistants at Johnson, she'll go down and help out. We do focus on the top bands, but also on the middle school second and third bands, so that it's not just about the top bands. And so setting up your schedule with your administration, we'll hit more of that at TBA and how that looks, but it is important that you're on deck to do whatever it takes. And so additional concepts we'll really hone in on at the live clinic if we have the opportunity, how we approach ensemble skills together. Again, I use broad terms for you, your neighbor, and the neighborhood, because the three of us each teach ensemble a little bit differently. We all talk about listening skills differently. We talk about focusing differently. So it's not that we use the same terminology, but it is with the same goal in mind. And that makes it really easy. And sometimes Mr. Rosenberg will go to Mrs. Rosenberg's rehearsal and he'll say the same thing, but differently. And she'll do the same thing at his. And then we all approach it, basically to leave nothing on the table, so that the goals of getting a great individual sound, making a characteristic sound. Mrs. Lean is a taskmaster along with Mr. Agueros, the two assistants at the schools, about insisting on really high levels of detail with things. And there are detail warriors, and you see that they're constantly fixing things in the middle school rehearsals. And I can't say enough that the middle school assistants are in each other's rehearsals all the time. The high school assistants are in each other's rehearsal. And so we'll share some videos at TBA of students at Tex Hill performing and Tejeda performing, and then doing the same things when we get to Johnson, and how those exercises evolve. But the biggest issue is just that we're reinforcing what we do in the middle school with private lesson teachers, crafting goals for students, rewarding students in younger groups, and then keeping that going all the way up to the high school. So, the reinforcement of all of the team members, I think, is just such a critical piece of what we do. So as we start to wrap up right now, Lady Bird Johnson has a quote that I feel like describes the Rosenbergs as humans, and it is, "Any committee is only as good as the most knowledgeable, determined, and vigorous person on it. There must be somebody who provides the flame." And I think that, when we give an award each year at the band banquet, we call it the Spirit of the Johnson Band Award. And it's given every year to a student that may not be the greatest player, or sometimes they are, but they're our passion and our energy, and they embody that. And I feel like so much of this clinic and what gets kids to the other side and gets them to continue begins with the culture from the Rosenbergs. And so they were with us every step of the way this year through COVID. And Mr. Rosenberg taught the marching band every day. Mrs. Rosenberg worked tirelessly to prepare her students and keep them engaged. And so we gave them the Spirit of CTJ Award this year. And we want to make it clear that although it seems like everything is rosy on Facebook, we do fight and we do have conflict and we do have it, but it's so worth it to work through it and not just alienate at your individual campuses. And so Mr. Rosenberg will wrap up our bigger picture. He started this bad boy and he will finish us out, and turning it over to you, B.
All right. Well, here's the big picture. It all starts with middle school, okay? And we try to make that family connection right away, to where it's not Tejeda, it's not Tex Hill, it's the Johnson cluster. We're all Jaguars, and we do that a lot by performing together, covering football games together. We'll play at Spurs games together. We'll do things like that just to get that family. We cover football games when Johnson's playing BOA. These are extra things that are not in our contract, but it's important for the program. Fostering a love of music from the beginning. It's what it's all about. We're teams. We help each other out. And it's just all about working together and making a great product. I love telling the kids what we do in middle school, Johnson takes them to the next level. I'd say, they either drink the Kool-Aid or, they get their steroid shot, but it's all at a different level when they get to the high school. But we get them ready for that.
And so as we wrap up for the day, we wish everybody a great convention. We hope we'll see you live, but if this is the video that you get to check out, we hope that it's been beneficial and wish you the very best. Please feel free to reach out to us if you need anything or have questions. Thank you so much from all of us. We appreciate you.